Perfect trade for Gold Coast. He's going to bring experience to Gold Coast, a bit like Luke Hodge when he went from Hawthorn to Brisbane. In fact, it's quite the mirror trade. He's still a phenomenal player. He should have made the All-Australian. Honestly, Dusty had a fucking sick 2023. Look at the stats, look at the player. So he's still got a lot in the tank, unlike the Fifes and Dangerfields. Dusty's aging like fine wine. And he'll just bring his wealth of knowledge to Gold Coast, and linking up with Dimmer again, that could be pretty scary. For the Hawthorn Football Club, I've gone with Bailey Smith. Makes plenty of sense. Bailey Smith does not strike me as someone who would want to move into state. Bailey Smith barracked for Hawthorn throughout when he was younger. A bit like Jack Ginnivan, he does obviously have a soft spot for Hawthorn. The Dogs just never seem to find a right place for him. He's always in the midfield and then he's pushed up the forward line or on the wings, somewhere where he doesn't want to be. And a little bit like Josh Caddy at the Cats, if anyone remembers him. Caddy only came to Richmond because he just couldn't get midfield time at the Cats. Bailey Smith could be quite the similar case where Bont is obviously always going to be picked over him. Libba and McRae, they are getting older, but they're still ahead of him. Even when Josh Dunkley goes, players like, Trelaw and others just seem to get ahead of him in the midfield, and I wouldn't blame him for wanting to move to a club that he loves and just a club that does have a good young list with a good coach. It's an attractive move for Bailey Smith. The Dogs can probably get a lot of stuff for him, a lot of picks, a lot of freeing up of space. Makes sense. For Melbourne, I've gone with a colossal one here. I've gone with Jamara Ugle-Hagan. Now, Aaron Norton has signed a massive deal at the Dogs, so he's going to stay there for a while. I don't think Aaron Norton's great. In fact, he's not that good at all. He got the same amount of goals as Ollie Henry in 2023. When I saw that stat, I was honestly bewildered, and that just sort of shows you that Norton is quite overrated. The funny thing with Jamara is, will he lead the Dogs? I honestly think there's a chance. Bevo is not the coach for me. He's volatile as a coach. Therefore, subsequently, the Dogs are volatile as a team. They can finish top 4 one year and out the 8 the next. So, there's no guarantees at the Dogs. When you look at Melbourne, the fact they've got Petrarca who's in his prime, they've got Oliver in his prime. Melbourne have a lot of good young talent. That could be an attractive move for Jamara. If he's not the main forward at the Dogs, if he's promised to be the main forward at Melbourne, will he make that move? I honestly see a world where he would. The Dogs will not want to let him go, but if they get a fat fucking offer from Melbourne, the Dogs have Darcy in their wings. Like I said, Norton, they have those other forward young players. So it won't hurt them too much, and I honestly think Melbourne are dying. They're crying out for a good, young, talented, tall forward. Ben Brown's failed, Wiedemann's failed, so many fails up forward for Melbourne. They just had a good forward, they would have won another flag by now. The trade makes sense. For North Melbourne, I've gone with Nick Blakey, purely because his dad has history to that club. It just makes a little bit of sense, the family ties. If North Melbourne turn into a powerhouse in 4 years' time, if Sydney sort of drop off in 4 years' time, will Blakey want to leave? Maybe. Not the most realistic trade, but North Melbourne could use with a consistent defender who can provide some offensive traits. And I mean, Nick Blakey